Hey there.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going. It's chaotic and busy. I seem to be 5 minutes late from everything I do nowadays, but otherwise good.
Well, I'm very glad that you can make it. I know we had a little bit of trouble before lining this up, but I'm so glad that we could do this now and be able to talk about some brand new Wolfheart.
Yeah. Yeah, I was only 12 hours off. Not much. It's just a half a day. No biggie.
Uh, no worries at all. I'm so glad that we could do this. I always love talking to you and being able to promote all of the works that you do, and it's always great when we can get back to Wolfheart. And of course, the 6th of September is just a little over a month away now, and everyone will be able to get the chance to hear what I've been enjoying over the past several weeks. And I just love what's going on here with the new Wolfheart. It's everything I loved about the band, but just refined more, more grandiose in the right spots, more brutal in the right spots. It just hits everything that I'm looking for in the band, and it's just so awesome to hear it.
That's exactly what we try to do to find our strengths and just push everything a little bit more forward. Like I still love the King of the North, but that is the easiest album, like the most mid-tempo, most melodic, basically the nicest album in a way. I feel more comfortable when I can put more pressure on the darker side also and make it a little bit more grim and more heavy and stuff like so. I also really enjoyed making this album.
So, in speaking of that, I mean, obviously with everything that's been going on lately, I mean, like with all the projects that you got going on, I mean, it feels like you have very little time. Like, what was it like to be able to start working on the new album?
Well, that was a good timing because before the Dawn album was already out, and we did like joint tours. We did a tour together in Finland and also in Europe. So I saved a lot of time because not neither of the bands were touring separately. Of course, it was two shows per night for me for on the both tours, but that like allowed me to work a lot more freely on the studio and spend more time with the composing of the new album. So I did like shitload of shows, but I did two shows per night. So I had actually more time than it looks like. So there was a really good amount of time to finalize the new album and for the writing and everything. Even though it seemed a lot of things were happening, it was, but it wasn't that bad for me. Like of course with the social media and everything, you trying to kind of like make things look as big and busy as possible. But me in my own bubble, we were in a good place scheduling wise.
I'm glad to hear that too, and especially when it comes to like being able to do like two sets a night like that. I know for a lot of bands, as soon as they do one set, it feels like they finally just like woke up all their muscles and they're
Yeah.
finally able to start playing. But you actually got to do all of that. Like you were actually able to like, actually get tired from a show. Especially when you're doing two sets a night. I imagine that your fingers must have felt pretty tired towards the end, but I imagine it was all worth it.
It was worth it because I do love touring, I do love playing, but I do love being home also. That's like a one thing I learned with the pandemic. It's actually quite nice to have your home routines and training routines. And touring is fun, but if I would need to double the touring amount because I have two bands active, that would be quite a lot to handle. And it's like, of course, it's people always on social media and videos and whatever on the shows, they see the peak of the day when the band is on the stage. But around that, there is like 12 hours of just waiting, 6 hours of bad sleep, few basically like not shitty meals, but like not the best quality fuel for your like body. So it takes a lot of energy in the long run, the touring. So it was well worth it. And I did change the instrument between. So it wasn't like I wouldn't enjoy playing two shows in a row with the guitar as much or two shows with the drums, but doing first set with the drums, then set with guitar, when the whole thing changes, is like it doesn't burden you that much. And it's kind of like it's the whole night kind of like starts over when you just take another instrument. So
Yeah, and I also got to imagine how much fun that is creatively as well too. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, if you're doing like two sets just on guitar, two sets on drums, it wouldn't maybe be necessarily as fulfilling. But when you're able to switch instruments, as especially something as drastic as guitar and drums, that has to be a fun feeling just as a musician standpoint.
It is because I love to do both, play guitar and play drums, and when I get to do the both, of course, that kind of like backfires like on a good evening when things go smooth and you enjoy playing. Of course, that's the double amount of fun, but you like not necessarily 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 15, but or not like if you're like if the tour is like 1 month, you are definitely gonna get few shows where you feel sick or you feel super tired. The monitoring gets fucked up or something is not right. There's so many reasons why a show can become a struggle for the musician, even though it doesn't show for the audience. When that happens 2 times in a row, the same night, that can be like when playing drums. And like I was sick like 4 days on the European tour. I had like fever, 39 to 40, like it's in Celsius, but it was really high. I had like this like a muscle and bone ache. I was just basically just on my bunk most of the time. I felt so cold after the shows that I had to go to a hot shower for half an hour just to warm up. But that was horrible because when the first gig begins and you feel like I'm gonna die, and you know that there's another one waiting, and you can't cancel either one of those because if you don't play the show, the band doesn't play the show, and no, the band doesn't get paid, and I don't want to be the responsible of. So it can be double the fun, but it can be also double the pain.
Oh, very much so. But I will say, at least from, the listening aspect and everything, I do love seeing that both projects are continuously rising. Like the reactions that I've seen for Before the Dawn is just incredible to me. I'm so happy to see that people are enjoying that so much as Wolfheart, and just like seeing both of those out there and both getting critical acclaim just makes me very happy as a longtime fan of both.
Well, it does make me happy too. Like it was kind of like a wild card to bring Before the Dawn back because we knew that it's going to be a big change for some of the older fans because the band basically has three different like versions on the timeline. There was the first version with Panu doing the clean vocals. That was the first 2 albums. Then there was Lars doing vocals on 4 albums. And then we did the last album with only growling vocals. That was basically a pathway to Wolfheart. And now coming back, like I don't think like any other singer. No, even if Lars would have been in the band, there would have been people unhappy that there's now clean vocals again because they loved mostly the last album, Phoenix Rising. So we knew that no matter what we do, it's going to stir up also the fan base because there's going to be people who, by some weird idea, think that we will be again the band that we were 2006. That's not naturally not gonna. We were that band already. That we're not gonna be that again, and we shouldn't be. So it was kind of like a big question mark. How are things gonna go, and how the schedules are gonna go? Juho plays in Swallow the Sun. I have Wolfheart. So when we started making the album, we didn't even know that are we gonna be able to tour? Will there be like time in the calendar that we're going to be able to do festivals? Is it just going to be like one album and then we see what happens and then nothing happens? Or is actually something going to continue? So I think what we are seeing now is the best possible result.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And you also mentioned that with Before the Dawn, but I feel that's also the case with Wolfheart too. It's just like when you add the new dimension, which you did on the last album with incorporating more clean vocals. It's just like that can be polarizing for some people, but for me, I think it just adds a new layer to the band. And it's not like you're doing entirely clean vocals. I feel like they're added in just the right spots, and it adds just that little bit more of emotion when it needs it. And I just love the direction that Wolfheart is going in right now.
Yeah, it was a very useful tool when it comes to writing the music to be able to have two different vocalists having a bigger part because there's only certain things you can do with the guitar or orchestration or strings. Like human voice carries completely different range of emotions. Like you can't create that with any other instrument. Like So being able to do that with both Lauri and Vangelis, both having very different voices, but also their different voices fit so well under our music. And yeah, at the same time, of course, I've seen that I've done now 22 albums, and whatever you do, there's going to be somebody who doesn't like it. It doesn't like, there's no way you could ever even like think of pleasing the whole audience at once. And we don't really care, of course, like, because our perspective is to make as good as album as we feel that we can do in the range of music we want to do. And when that is done, then of course it would be nice that there would be people who like it, but we understand that it will divide people, and it should divide, because the worst thing would be to make this mediocre music that is just a white noise to everybody, that doesn't annoy, doesn't stick, doesn't create any emotions. You don't love it, you don't hate it. But and with saying that, we don't care if you hate it, because this is exactly what we aim to do. And while doing so, we didn't ask any questions from fans, neither who love or hate us. It has to come from the band first, and then when it's open, like it's like an open game for all those music critic predators at home, then it's not our interest anymore, because you like it or you hate it. We shouldn't be bothered in a way. I see a lot of bands that when they get negative critics, they start to almost like argue with people in YouTube or Facebook, like defending their music, kind of like in a way that people don't have the right to hate it or dislike it, because this is so important to us, so you should, like, you owe us some kind of like gratitude. But yeah, when the album is done, and if we stand behind the music, then you can love it or hate it, and everything is cool.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, not everything is going to be for everyone, but I will say, at least on my behalf, if you've written anything that I don't like, I've yet to hear it. So
I
between all of
well,
your stuff, so
eventually it will happen. Either I do something shitty by purpose, or I just run out of good ideas and it becomes shitty. It's statistically, it's impossible that we could continue this streak of only good songs. So that's, sadly, eventually it will happen.
well, at least you're writing out, still putting out great music here in 2024, and I'm still excited to see what will happen in the future. I mean, whatever that breakdown starts to happen, at least right now, I'm enjoying everything that's going on, and yeah, and getting back into the album again, like it's like obviously it does feel much different than the previous album, but it also feels similar as well, because it's just like there's a lot of great emotion that's going on behind it, which I really felt on the last album. And when you got songs that really do get on the heavier side of things, and then you got some stuff that feels like some of the softest stuff that Wolfheart has done today. I just appreciate that from the album perspective, because that makes me want to enjoy it from start to finish, especially on that first listen when I don't know what's going to happen. It makes for a full on great experience, rather than everything just being heavy all the time, everything being softer all the time. It all works together so very well on this album.
Yeah, that was one of the main approaches with the songwriting. And also, like, I told our producer who does the orchestration, he did the orchestration on the previous album also, that on this album it has to be cinematic, not symphonic. I don't want people to think like, that was really cool Nightwish thing they did there. I want the thing to sound like that people think about movie trailers or scenes from a movie, that it has to lead into like some kind of like visual connection. That's the main point. It needs to sound like a movie soundtrack, instead of like just a certain orchestration things to make things bigger. Those are basically the same thing, but they are very different at the same time. But if you add metal music underneath the soundtrack of Dune movies, that would create the best metal music in the world. At the same time, I don't think Nightwish music would work in any epic movie, even though both work with the same kind of like elements. But and also with the songwriting, I wanted to make the songs work in a way that if you, because I add the vocals and the lyrics in the very last minute. Like I write most of the lyrics at the studio, which always sucks for any vocalist that is in any of my bands. We are working Dawn of Solace album at the moment, and Mikko finished his vocals 2 days ago, and he got the first lyrics week ago. So that's apparently that sucks if you're a vocalist and you get the lyrics 2 days before the recording's beginning. But I need to like finalize the song in a way that I can hear pretty much the ready song in the studio, and the song has to carry the story already. Like the song has to work as an instrumental in a way that you could picture a movie on top of that. Like it has the ups and downs, and it has like the menacing parts. Because, and also you mentioned like we on this album there's some of the heaviest parts, but also some of the easiest parts, like the most like mellow parts. But it's easier to write the super mellow parts when you are also doing super heavy. When you have the bigger the contrast is, the easier it is to maneuver with those.
Yeah, and I was just gonna. Well, first of all, you answered the last question I was gonna have. I'm so happy to hear that Dawn of Solace is working on new material. I wanted to bring that up, but I was gonna say also like that's also explains my two favorite songs off the new album is A Throne of Bone and Gale for that reason. Like it's the heaviest and some of the most mellow, softest parts as well combined. Like it's the contrast of the album, and I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, like you said before, like if it's constantly heavy, like the bands that I love, like Analaktra, I listen to them quite often at the gym, but I can only do 1/2 an hour and only at the gym. I could never just go have a walk in the park and put their album on, because there's no, it's just a constant like beating in the face. So the music that I like, Moonsorrow is a good example. Like I also listen to them quite a lot in the gym, and their songs might be like 1/2 an hour long, and they go to so many different places during the song. So you kind of like forget the time and where you are when the music just takes you the places. But for that, you really need the contrast. If it's only one thing, then you basically use all the tricks that you have for the songwriting in the first 2 minutes.
It's so true, and that's why I love the album experience so much more than just a handful of singles or a single, because I love experiencing uh whatever artist is putting something together. Like I love being able to hear what's going on at that creative moment. Being able to hear all of the contrast that's going on, the dynamics, whether something gets very brutal, whether something gets very, very catchy, everything in between. Like I love being able to have that contrast, and of course, like the bands that you mentioned. I mean, it's great to have that in your real life as well too, rather than just listening to one style of music. I think that would be just so boring for people if they only listen to one style.
And it's you mentioned that the I mean the album experience, and that's kind of like it bothers me a tiny bit, because nowadays music is mainly made for playlists for the streaming, and you are I do like putting out a lot of singles, because it means that I can do a lot of videos for the song. So I do enjoy that aspect of the whole like single thing. We are going to do 6 music videos for this album, and I think it's awesome to be able to connect the visual ideas with the music also. But at the same time, what actually bothers me is that people get to know songs more than albums. And the way the playlists work, especially Spotify, like some songs might be added to certain long-term playlist 1/2 a year after the release, and like you don't have the same control anymore. Like if you want to, like, this is the song we want to present from the album first, and then you have a plan with the second song that's going to reveal a little bit different side of the album, and then the people get to hear the whole album. But now there's no like you can't control where the songs are and when the people are going to find the music, and if they're going to even find the album. One of the songs might be in somebody's cooking playlist, what they listen to at the kitchen, and this is one song that just comes around and they enjoy the song, but they never get into the album itself. And of course, each song stands on its own, but at the same time, each song is linked to the previous song and the song that follows afterwards when they create this whole experience of an album. So that is kind of like disappearing thing. But then again, that's how evolution works in everything. So I'm not the guy who's going to battle windmills because of this, but it's just that's how I learned listening to music in the late 90s. I bought the CD, I read the whole booklet, I wanted to see everybody who the band is thanking, who did the production, what is the nickname of the drummer, what is the logos in the bottom, and at the same time get to know the whole album. And that's getting like that role of whole piece of music is getting smaller and smaller.
Well, that's also why I still appreciate that you still think about that as well. But also at the same time, like you are creating the 6 videos for the new album as well. I'm glad that you're at least trying to appease both sides, even if one side is increasingly getting smaller.
Yeah. Well, those are the rules of today. Like I think we're also stupid not to understand the realities. Like this is every like decade had their different things in the music business. Like it doesn't make any sense to have a pointless fights and try to do things on your way if you know it's completely stupid, because after all, we want to be able to spread the music as wide as possible, and with that tour as wide as possible, and with that it helps us to create more music when we get more listeners, and our music is creating revenue for the label that is providing the budget for the studio. So overall, everything we do, and if it bothers me, it's just my personal thing, but the label is making money from the streaming, even though it's one song by song, and that allows me to do videos still and create music. So it does bother me, but it's not like, yeah, it's my personal issue, and this is the time of the younger generation and this is the way they find music. It's not that I can change. I'm an old guy now. I'm next I'm gonna turn like 45. So of course I'm the old guy now telling you like how good things were back in the day. So that's just how it goes.
Oh, for sure. But again, I'm still happy that you're enjoying everything that you are doing right now, even if there are some stones in the way of making it perfect. I'm glad that you're still finding the creative outlet for that, and that's got me. And with you mentioning that you already have like 6 ideas for the videos and everything, that's got me very excited because I do love visually everything that you do so far, and I'm so curious to see what the other concepts are going to be for the rest of the singles off of the album, because I loved what happened with Grave, and I'm just so excited to see what's going to be happening with the rest of the singles.
At least it's going to be the 4th single that I'm not going to mention the song, but that's going to come out on the album release day, and that is the most epic location we've ever been. But that's the only thing I can say. But I really wanted to have that as the first single because of the scenery, but the other people decided differently, and they have a veto right because I'm way too connected with the music as a songwriter, so I shouldn't decide certain things because, yeah, again, in my own bubble, so I don't have the clear perspective for the album after a certain point. But that scenery is gonna be as movie type as we can ever get, I think.
Oh, that's got me so excited. I got a couple ideas of what it could be. I won't say what they are, but I got a couple ideas of what it could be, and that's got me excited.
It's like if you this is probably way too big thing to say, but it kind of like if Lord of the Rings would happen in Nordic countries, how that would look like. Something like that. Of course, we didn't have the budget that Peter Jackson did, but that gives the basic idea where we aimed with the scenery.
Oh, cool. Again, I'm so looking forward to that. And of course, visually so much, one thing that people are already familiar with now is the album cover, which I find to be one of the most striking album covers for Wolfheart so far. I think it fits so perfect with the album. How did that come to be?
I've been working with the same graphic guy for, I think, this 8th or 9th album. He's done Dawn of Solace and Before the Dawn, and now this third third or fourth Wolfheart, I don't even remember exactly. So it's super easy to communicate with him because he knows musically what I do and I know what he does with the graphics. So I try to give as less guidelines as possible. I give him always some songs to listen so he can hear the mood of the album. And then I give the basic idea what I would want to have there, what it should represent. But then I'll leave him to work alone, and 9 times out of 10 it's just a home run. And this was definitely one of those. And he really got the vibe of the album. And even though it's basically super cliche, it has a skulls and antlers and snake skeletons and dead leaves and branches, but the whole arrangement and everything makes it so grand and glorious, even though it, with those specs that I just said, could be any Swedish death metal band album cover with no surprises at all. But still, when you see it, it looks so Finnish and so Wolfheart and so fitting for the album, all of those at the same time. And it doesn't remind me of any album cover at the moment, at least.
And I think that's exactly why I love it so much. Again, with the album coming out on the 6th of September and through a new label as well too. I mean, what was it like to switch labels this time around?
Very exciting. Like the deal with Napalm ended anyway, so we were like anywhere looking like what other labels have to offer. Napalm sent their offer also for the renewal of the deal, and there was other labels on the table, but this whole thing with the Reigning Phoenix coming to the music scene is the biggest thing in music business, in metal music, in like 20 years. Like when is the last time there was this level of a label just emerged suddenly from nothingness, and being able to like pull in bands from Atomic Fire, like Meshuggah, Amorphis, Opeth, then they signed Kerry King, Halloween. It's they are like coming so big and with such a strength. And if those bands like usually it happens like when some big names in the industry change labels, they pull the bands with them that they've been working for a long time. I'm not saying that this is exactly what happens now, but that's the thing that happens with agencies, managements, labels. Bands like to work with certain people who they trust and who have proven to be very professional. So when this kind of label is able to pull that level bands in this short time, it tells that there's some big names working on the label. It's not just money, it's not just label. People are like what is the word in English? I forgot it. But yeah, bands like to work with the same people, and this only means that they have a really, really like all-stars team also in the label. And like Kerry King could walk to any label. He could just go to any office of any major label and say like, I want to do an album, give me a budget, and they would select, okay. So him choosing this label and his management being okay with everything, they probably check super carefully who works and who does the promo and who works in this department, how things are going to work out. So yeah, there absolutely no red flags at all, and so far no regrets also.
And I'm so glad to hear that too. And I don't think it goes. I don't think it's said enough. Like it's important to be able to find the right band members when you are putting something together. But also when you get to that level where you're touring, you're on a label, you're putting out albums, you're putting out merchandise. The people around you are just as valuable as well too. Making sure that you are on the right label, that you have the right people that are mixing, mastering, production of the sound, the right people that can market you, touring, everything that goes along with that. And when you can find those right people and you don't have those regrets, not only does it just make everything smoother, it makes everything better as well.
Yeah, because for example, with our album release cycle, the album comes out now in September. We have to do at least one big tour this year. And if we wouldn't have this agency and management, it's completely overflowed and overbooked in Europe at the moment. But they were able to push us on the tour with Dark Tranquility and Moonspell. That has a huge factor for the album release itself. Now we are trying to we are super close of closing the North American tour. Again, certain peoples in our team made that happen. And if those people wouldn't get that job done, the whole interest of the whole music industry towards our album would be completely different, because of course record stores, they take albums on the store from the bands that are probably touring in that region. The media is gonna get into the band differently if you have a big tour already under the belt and stuff like that. So having those people, handful of right people doing right moves already half a year before the album comes out makes enormous difference. And it's we could make the best music in the world, but if there is no people that pushes that music to the reporters, push the label to do a better job, have a label that does something better than the previous one, and have people who put us on the road on the deals that make actually sense, that we are making money instead of losing, that's the make it or break it situation. The music only carries a certain point, but if you don't have the right people, that's like a huge bottleneck of the whole production. But sadly, like, I would like, in the ideal world, from an artistic point of view, make good enough music and all the doors will open, but that's never the case. You need to have the people that open those doors for you, so that the music can actually find the listeners. People don't quite often understand how big importance of management and agencies and labels actually have. A lot of people are talking nowadays that you don't need the label, you don't need the agencies or management, you can release everything on your own, just do a digital distribution. But it's so far from that. But hey, I need to jump into another interview.
Sorry.
5 minutes to go, but like I said, I'm 5 minutes late from everything nowadays, so this is no problem at all. But I can give you 60 seconds.
Okay, well, I can wrap that up, but yeah, I could easily go like hours with you, because I feel like we could just go back and forth with stuff like this. But I'm so happy to hear everything that's going on. Of course, I love seeing what Before the Dawn is doing. I'm so happy with the new Wolfheart. I can't wait for everyone else to check that out. I'm so excited to hear what's going to be happening with Dawn of Solace, and I'm glad to see there's new material coming with that. And you did hint at it as well too, like closing in on a new North American tour, which I can't wait to see who you're going on tour with and all the dates that come along with it. And I thank you so very much for your time. Every time I get to talk to you, I'm so appreciative of being able to get your intellect and being able to learn everything about your world. And I thank you so much for your time.
We will definitely do this again.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you got something to promote, especially the new Dawn of Solace, which I would imagine would be the next release from you, I'd love to be able to talk to you for that.
That should come out in December already, if I can get the master files out in 2 days. That's basically the ball is in my corner. But yeah, that should be this year already. So I guess we talk soon.
Sounds great. I hope we can do that, and I hope you have a great rest of the press time. I know it's busy for you. So again, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.